Welcome back to Lesson 4, the last lesson in this unit on chords. You already have 90% of the knowledge you need to attempt the final question. You'll be shown a few bars of piano music and asked to identify just 3 chords using the by now familiar Roman numerals 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6. And, as with the questions on cadences, you'll even be told what the key is. Heaven knows why, as you ought to be able to identify the key from knowledge gained in Unit 3, Keys and Scales. But before we look at a sample question, I need to cover one other matter. All triads can be inverted. Now you're used to the word inversion from our lessons on intervals, but it means something slightly different when we're talking about triads and chords in general. Firstly, most C major chords in piano music are not C major triads, according to the definition. All these are C major chords, but only the first and last are C major triads. However, they are all C major chords in root position. In other words, they all have C as the lowest note being played. If, however, we look at the following C major chords, we see that rather than C in the bass, we have E, not the tonic, but the mediant. These are all still C major chords because they're all made up of C, E and G, but now they are no longer in root position, but they are in first inversion. By now you've probably realised that we could have a load of C major chords with not C or E in the bass, but G, like these. These are all C major chords, of course, but now they are in second inversion. All we now need is an easy way of labelling whether a chord is in root position or in first inversion or second inversion. For the purposes of the examination, all we need are the letters A, B and C in their lowercase form to indicate root position A, first inversion B, or second inversion C. And we add these letters after the Roman numerals with which we've already become familiar. So, if the key is C major, we know that 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6 refer to triads built on the tonic C, supertonic D, subdominant F, dominant G and submediant A. But we can now indicate in a neat and concise shorthand what note is in the bass. So if we're in C major and we're looking at the tonic chord and it has C in the bass, we have a chord of 1A. If E is in the bass, 1B, and if G is in the bass, 1C. Similarly, if we have a chord of D minor and the music is in C major, we have the supertonic chord indicated by 2. If the bass note is D, then we can add A to the Roman numeral, 2A. If the bass note is F, then the shorthand becomes 2B, and so on. So, how is this new knowledge going to be assessed in the examination? You'll be shown a short piece of piano music and asked to identify just 3 chords using drop-down menus. As elsewhere, I advise you to work out the answer before you look at the list on those menus. As with lessons 2 and 3, the first thing you could do is jot down the scale of the key which, as I said earlier, will be given to you. Identify the chords on the tonic, supertonic, subdominant, dominant and submediant. As before, identify which chord symbol of 1, 2, 4, 5 or 6 is most appropriate, remembering to look at all the notes in the chord across both staves. Then look at the lowest note in the chord to give you the choice of A, B or C for root position, first inversion or second inversion. Let's have a go using this example. The key is F minor. You'll be told the key in the examination, although personally I think by now you're more than capable of working it out for yourselves. 4 flats, the last being D flat. Therefore the key has got to be either F minor or A flat major. And there are loads of E naturals, and the last and first notes in the bass are F. Yes, of course it is F minor. Well, the first thing to do is to identify the important triads of F minor thus. Notice that while in the examination you'll be asked to identify 3 chords, here you'll be pleased to see I'm going to work through 9 chords. You can't accuse me of doing things by halves. Okay, chord 1, A flat in the left hand, C and F in the right hand. Don't make the mistake one of my students once made, fortunately in a lesson before the examination and not in the examination itself, of looking only at the right hand stave. This has to be a tonic triad as it contains F, A flat and C, so the Roman numeral will be 1. But because it hasn't got an F in the bass, but A flat instead, we can see that the chord is first inversion. Chord 2, G, C and E natural. This has to be a dominant chord, therefore 5. But the bass note is G, so this is second inversion. Chord 3, 2 Fs, an A flat and a C. A tonic chord 1 with F in the bass, therefore 1A. Chord 4, B flat, D flat and G. This can only be a supertonic chord, and because there is a B flat in the bass, it is a first inversion triad, therefore 2B. Chord 5, C, E natural and G. This can only be a dominant, and with C in the bass, it is in root position, therefore 5A. Chord 6, D flat, F and A flat. This can only be a submedian chord, and with D flat in the bass, it has to be in root position, therefore 6A. Chord 7, very nearly the same as chord 6, but D flat, F, B flat, which can only be a subdominant chord, but with D flat in the bass, it is first inversion, therefore 4B. Chord 8, F, A flat, C, another tonic chord, but with C in the bass, makes it a second inversion, so the correct answer is 1C. And finally chord 9, F and A flat only, no C, but with F in the bass, a tonic chord in root position, 1A. And there you have it. You've covered all there is to be known for the topic of chords for your grade 5 theory. Or rather, you've covered all that is to be assessed in the examination. To give credit where it is due, some of the assessment materials in Discovering Music Theory Book 5 is actually rather good, even if the syllabus to which it is written has some significant holes in it. Don't forget, there is more backup material available in printable support material on the website. That's another topic covered. See you soon. But there's more. Okay, let's break this syllabus apart and go just a little further than we have to. You'll want this information if you're looking at writing choral music for your GCSE music coursework, or if you have any aspirations of becoming a composer. This sort of analysis of harmonies is important, I'd actually say essential, if you want to understand harmony, but as with so much else on ABRSM syllabuses, the theory syllabus misses out on some really useful stuff. You can stop this video now if you want, but if you carry on, just a word of warning. What I'm about to tell you goes beyond what you need and actually goes against some of what you've been taught to do already. Firstly, we who were educated back when the dinosaurs roamed the classroom were brought up in the habit of never wasting chalk on slate tablets by writing A after any Roman numeral for a root position chord. If a chord was in root position, we just wrote the Roman numeral like this. For the ABRSM theory examination, however, the drop-down menus for each chord should have A to indicate root position. But if you decide to go delving into old theory books, you may well see Roman numerals without A indicating root position. Until you pass the exam, stay in the habit of labelling root position chords with A after the Roman numeral. Secondly, I regard it as good practice, except when preparing for ABRSM Grade 5 Music Theory, to use capital Roman numerals, uppercase, to identify those chords which are major, and lowercase Roman numerals to identify chords which are minor, like this. This is not compulsory, and I must admit I don't always follow the practice myself, but it can be useful sometimes to differentiate on paper between major and minor chords. Now into the really exciting, adventurous stuff. What about those chords I've just labelled with question marks on the top line? Let's have a look at the first chord. There's a C, an E natural and a G, which tells us that it's a dominant chord, but there's also a B flat in there. Now we know that in a root position dominant chord in F minor, we'd have a C major chord with C in the bass and an E and a G and maybe another C or G being played. Where does that B flat fit in? Well, counting up from C to B flat, and don't worry about the flat part of the note, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, we get to 7. And what we get is a chord called the dominant 7th, in this case being in F minor, a chord of C major, C, E, G, to which has been added the 7th note above C, B, in this case flattened because B is flattened in the key signature. And these dominant sevenths can also be in root position with C in the bass, or inverted. But how do we write it down? Dead simple. Before the Roman numeral 5, add in a little superscript 7, like this. So root position with C in the bass can be written as 7-5-A, or just 7-5 if you aren't doing the ABRSM exam. First inversion with E in the bass, 7-5-B, second inversion with G in the bass, 7-5-C, and third inversion, yes, third inversion with B flat in the bass as 7-5-D. And that's what we have with the first of these chords, 7-5-D. The second chord also has C, E natural and G in it, with the added B flat. So again, it's a dominant seventh. With the E natural in the bass, it means that it is in first inversion. So we could label this 7-5-B. And it isn't just the dominant chord that can have an added seventh. The other chord which often has a seventh added in is the supertonic chord. And our third mystery chord in this exercise is a supertonic seventh with G, B and D. And the seventh note above G is the F. But note, actually, that the B flat and D flat of the key signature have both been raised by a semitone, having the effect of creating a major chord. So we can label this with 7-2-B with capitals for the 2. 7, the added seventh, capital 2 in Roman numerals, B. If we go to the last but one bar, we can see a moving alto part in the right-hand stave. And this can be notated like this, with a V, 5, Roman numeral, and then 7-5. And now for one last mystery chord. Here we have a C, F, G. Well, we're pretty used to C, E, G, C, E natural G, the chord of the dominant. This chord is called a dominant sus4, short for dominant trad with a suspended fourth, and it is labelled thus. Suspensions are a rather beautiful way of ramping up the tension in a piece of music and are actually quite common, which is why I wanted to include this in the bonus material for this lesson. One obvious point: if you suspend anything in the air and let go, that thing will fall downwards under the influence of gravity. This is true too of musical suspensions. In this case, the suspended note is F, and it is followed by the note immediately lower than it, E. Remember that this bonus part of the lesson will not feature in your music theory examination, but I offer it to you just to enrich your learning further and hope you have enjoyed it. Don't forget to refer to the printable support material available on the website. See you soon.